Today, we're talking about the Jack family. It's a story that is as heartbreaking as it is mysterious, because one night, they just vanished. I mean, that's the question, isn't it? It's a question that just hangs over this entire case. A single person going missing is one thing, but a whole family, a mom, a dad, and their two little boys, how does that even happen? So let's break it down to the bare facts. We're in the summer of 1989. A young family, desperate for a fresh start, climbs into a pickup truck with a man they've just met. He promised them work, a new beginning, but instead, they were just gone.
To really understand what happened that night, we first have to get who they were. We have to understand the world they were living in, a world that honestly had left them incredibly vulnerable from the very start.
So this is the Jack family. You've got Ronnie and Doreen, both just 26 years old, and their two sons, 9-year-old Russell and little 4-year-old Ryan. They were members of the Cheslata Carrier Nation, an Indigenous First Nation community up in British Columbia. For them, life was a constant struggle. They were dealing with systemic discrimination and just crushing poverty. Then the other shoe dropped. Ronnie got a really bad back injury at the local sawmill, and he couldn't work anymore. That pushed the whole family onto welfare, and you can just imagine how desperate they were getting. For Doreen, this struggle was piled on top of some really deep generational trauma. See, she was a survivor of Canada's residential school system. And let's be clear, this wasn't about education. It was a government policy of forced assimilation, designed, in the truly horrifying words of one official, to kill off the Indian in the child. The damage this policy did was just devastating. Doreen's own sister remembers being told they couldn't even speak to their siblings at school. Think about that for a second. Being taught that your own family isn't your family anymore. That's the world that Doreen grew up in. So it's this crushing weight of desperation that led Ronnie to a local pub on the night of August 1st, 1989. He wasn't just there to have a beer. He was looking for a way out, a lifeline, and he thought he'd found it. A man comes up to Ronnie and makes an offer that honestly must have sounded like a miracle. A logging job for him, a cooking job for Doreen, and get this, even daycare for the boys at a nearby camp. For a family that was right on the edge, this wasn't just a job offer. It was everything. Later on, witnesses helped put together a description of this mystery man. He was a big guy, pretty imposing. A white male, tall and heavyset, with reddish hair and a full beard. Dressed like a typical logger, red checkered flannel, blue jeans. But here's the thing that'll give you chills. Even as Ronnie was accepting this offer, he had this feeling, this deep sense of unease. In the early hours of the morning, right before they left, he called his mom. He told her about the job, but then he said those words. He was desperate enough to go, but some part of him knew something was terribly wrong. So, the family leaves and they don't come back. The search begins, but the response from law enforcement was, to put it lightly, a total disaster. It was plagued by indifference and just critical mistakes right from the very beginning. Just look at this timeline. It shows a pattern of failure. When the families first reported missing, the police just shrug it off, suggesting, oh, they probably just started a new life somewhere. Then, a catastrophic mistake. They actually announced the family has been found, and they closed the case for several crucial days. Even a TV reenactment that was supposed to help find them didn't even air in the area where they went missing. It's just unbelievable. For 7 years, there was basically nothing. Silence. Then, in 1996, the biggest tip in the history of the case comes in. An anonymous guy calls from a house party, and he just says, matter-of-factly, that the family was buried at a ranch. Then he hangs up. Police begged him to call back, but he never did. Now, the Jack family's story is absolutely tragic, but it's not an isolated event, not by a long shot. To really get the full picture here, you have to understand the place where they vanished from. This is Highway 16. It's this remote, lonely stretch of road that cuts through the Canadian wilderness. And it has a much darker name, a name earned through decades of pain and loss. The Highway of Tears. The number is just staggering. Over 80 women and girls, the vast majority of them Indigenous, have either disappeared or been found murdered along this highway and the surrounding roads since 1969. The Jack family, a family of 4, they are part of that horrifying statistic. And this isn't some new crisis. For decades, Indigenous leaders and families have been screaming for help, organizing, marching, and putting together detailed reports just like this one demanding justice and begging authorities to finally take these cases seriously.
So, here we are, all these years later. The family is still waiting, and the same agonizing questions are just hanging there, unanswered. 35 years. Just think about that. That's a whole lifetime. For 35 years, their family has been stuck in this horrible limbo. No arrests, no bodies, no answers.
And the pain is just as raw today as it was in 1989. This plea from a relative, it just cuts right to the heart of it all. This isn't just some cold case file. It's about innocent little boys who never got to grow up, and a family that just wants to bring their loved ones home. Somebody knows. The man in the bar, the anonymous caller from that party. Someone out there knows what happened to Ronnie, Doreen, Russell, and Ryan Jack. And after 35 years of silence, the biggest question isn't just what happened. It's who is still out there keeping that secret.